Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Elog, and today I'm presenting on technology and professionalism in social work practice. So, this is a topic that's incredibly relevant to our field right now because technology is changing faster than our ethical frameworks can actually keep up with. And the mistakes that practitioners make in this space, it has real consequences for the client and the careers alike. So let us get started. What we'll cover today. Here's what we're going to cover today. We'll look at specific examples of technology mistakes social workers make across social media, texting, and AI. Then we'll walk through three specific ethical areas, including HIPAA compliance, confidentiality, and professionalism. We'll close with key takeaways and that you can apply immediately in your own social work practice. Social media mistakes. Social media is where a lot of technology boundary violations begin, often unintentionally. The first and most common mistake is accepting client friend requests. This might seem harmless, but it does create dual relationships that blurs the professional boundaries and can expose confidential client information to your personal network. The second mistake is venting about work online. Even without using names, details about the cases can be identifiable to people who know the client, and that constitutes a confidentiality breach. The third is Googling clients without their knowledge or consent. So this introduces information into the therapeutic relationship that the client never agreed to share and can create bias in how we assess and interact with them. Texting and AI mistakes. Moving into texting, so the biggest risk are using personal phones for client communication, which lacks documentation and is not HIPAA compliant, and setting unrealistic expectation availability expectations by responding at all hours. So standard text messaging is not encrypted, which means that sensitive clinical information should never be shared that way. While AI tools, the risks are equally serious. So entering any identifiable client information into platforms like ChatGPT is a HIPAA violation because those platforms are not covered entities under HIPAA. So relying on AI generated clinical recommendations without professional judgment is also ethically problematic because it removes the accountability that belongs to the practitioner. And using AI to write session notes without disclosure raises serious informed consent concerns. As Joyner 2019 notes, digital ethics in social work requires proactive awareness rather than reactive responses after harm has occurred. HIPAA and technology. HIPAA requires that all protected health information be stored, transmitted, and assessed only through HIPAA compliant platforms. Here is a real world example of how easily this can go wrong. A social worker emails a client's psychiatric evaluation to a collaborating physician using their personal Gmail account. The intention is good, collaborative care, but Gmail is not a HIPAA compliant platform, and that single email constitutes a violation that could expose sensitive mental health information and result in serious legal and professional consequences. The best practice is straightforward. Always use agency approved, encrypted, HIPAA compliant platforms for all client communication and record sharing. Confidentiality in technology. Confidentiality breaches in the digital age often happen without any harmful intent. Here's an example. A social worker conducts a telehealth session from a coffee shop because their office Wi-Fi went down. The public network is unsecured and people nearby can hear portions of the conversation, and the session is not being conducted on a HIPAA compliant connection. Even though this worker meant no harm, this is a serious confidentiality breach. The best practice is to always conduct telehealth and client related work from a private, secure location using only encrypted, agency approved platforms, and never use public Wi Fi for client sessions or record access. Professionalism. Professionalism does not end when we close the office door and our digital behavior is an extension of our professional identity. Here's a professionalism example. A social worker responds to a client's crisis text at 11 p.m. using casual language, abbreviations, and emojis, then writes a formal clinical note the next morning that does not reflect the informal contact that occurred. This creates confusion about the professional nature of the relationship and introduces undocumented clinical contact and sets expectations about after hours availability that the agency has not sanctioned. The best practice is to establish clear technology boundaries at intake. Document all electronic communications and ensure after-hour policies are explicitly agency approved before engaging in any client contact outside of business hours. Online identity. Our online identity matters professionally. I encourage everyone to regularly audit their public faces social media profiles and ask whether each post reflects the professional identity you want clients, employers, and colleagues to encounter. Use privacy settings intentionally, but remember they are not a substitute for professional judgment about content. Consider keeping personal and professional profiles separate. And most importantly, remember that nothing is truly private online. Before posting anything yourself, whether you would be comfortable if your supervisor, your client, or a licensing board saw it. Agency policies. Before you encounter a technology dilemma at work, you should already know the answer to these four questions. What platforms are approved for client communication? What is the after hours communication policy? How should electronic records be stored and shared? And what is the social media policy? If you do not know the answers to these questions, your first step after this presentation is to find out Policy knowledge, policy knowledge is professional responsibility. Key takeaways. So let me close with 5 key takeaways. First, technology mistakes are among the most common ethical violations in modern social work, and prevention requires proactive awareness. Second, HIPAA compliance is non-negotiable, and every platform you use for client communication must be agency approved. Third, confidentiality extends to every digital interaction with no exceptions. Four, your online identity is your professional identity, so audit it regularly. And fifth, know your agency technology policies before you need them, and use supervision and technology related ethical questions, and use supervision when technology related ethical questions arise. Thank you so much for your time.